Hey guys, just want to check I'm live on Facebook as well. Facebook's not going to let me down. It didn't let me down. Hey guys, how's it going? M.K.S here, back in another video. I hope you're having a good time wherever you are. And today I want to focus on philanthropy, fundraising and charity as it's the 23rd in my strange patterns. Admittedly rather strange patterns. The number 23 makes me think of like fundraising, sympathy, philanthropy and empathy. I suppose fundraising for my 5 causes of benefit from a selfish point of view, town football, but also Celtic, libertarianism, people from former colony and developing nations, and also tackling poverty and alleviating suffering and spreading peace, love, joy, hope and happiness. As usual, I take too much on, but I want to focus on these videos on the case for investing in Dyslexics, and these videos are inspired by an article I sort of briefly read or scanned over, because when it's large blocks of text, I sort of struggle to focus on reading them. Well, that's dyslexia or potential ADHD or whatever it might be. I don't know if I have ADHD, but anyway. As I say, I want to focus on dyslexia because it's December, and I thought 23. As I think of like investing, I thought, investing, philanthropy, fundraising, and all that sort of stuff, financial empowerment or whatnot. And it's a Tuesday as well, I think, like business and banking and whatnot. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this, and it's inspired by an article I read a while back by someone called Jan Halfpenny, I think from Scotland. So yeah, and also it's to inspire people with dyslexia as well. The incentive and the inspiration for this video is from that article, which I'm sure was also to inspire dyslexics. So I thought a bit later that it would also hopefully inspire dyslexics and hopefully empower dyslexics, but also show how dyslexics can empower other people, how we can help others to grow. I think, like, without wanting to give too much away, I'm going ahead of myself, but I think like China and India could probably grow even faster with help of like dyslexic thinking, and also African nations and other Asian nations as well, Latin American nations and that kind of thing. Based on the work as well made by Dyslexia, the Yale Centre for Dyslexia and Creativity, the Dyslexic Advantage, the Childmind Institute, Understood, and many other organisations which help dyslexics, and in the case of the latter two, help people with learning disabilities more generally. I think even the Dyslexic Advantage and the Yale Centre for Dyslexia and Creativity, and made by Dyslexia, also focus on other learning disabilities, but they mainly focus on dyslexia, which is the most prevalent learning disability, I believe. I could go on to statistics about such, but I'm not going to go into such right now. But thinking about dyslexics, I've got talent and that kind of thing. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Another thing I wanted to say is I'm focusing on the YouTube screen, which I hope to do on YouTube on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and in the future maybe I'll focus on like TikTok and things like that. And on Mondays I like to mix it up. So sometimes on like part 1 I might focus on Facebook, and part 2 on YouTube and that kind of thing. And on Facebook, on Friday I'll focus on Facebook. I think that's when I think too far ahead of myself, but when I get my words wrong. But another thing is, as I say, because the reason why I'm mentioning I'm focusing on the YouTube screen is because I don't want to do split screen just in case it messes up. Like, I get deleted, my page or channel gets deleted or whatever, which would be even worse. I get my priorities right. But yeah, if you do message me or if you do comment on my Facebook video, I won't be able to reply till after, but I will be able to reply, but it will have to be after the video. I'll have to type up a reply or reply in the next video to whatever you might post. And if you want me to do a shout out, please let me know, and I'll shout you out in my next video. So please let me know either on Facebook, which I can see afterwards, or on YouTube. But I'm focusing on one screen. But yeah, I'd love to be able to do split screen. It gives the option to do that, but I fear that if I do that, Facebook or YouTube, for whatever reason, might get suspicious for some reason. So anyway, as per usual, I have more than one tab open. In this case, 2, at least not 6 or 7, like I sometimes have with my scatterbrain. But here goes anyway. So these are pointers number 1 to 10. So or cases number 1 to 10, or whatever you want to call them. In this case, reasons, shall we say? So number 1, reason number 1, I suppose you could say. So normally I say point number 1, but I'll say reason number 1 is, I'm going to start with a bit of a negative one in a way, which is the challenges dyslexics face. Many end up going in prison. Probably some, unfortunately, will be homeless, which I don't want anyone to be homeless, especially not dyslexics, but I don't want anyone to be homeless or anything like that, ideally, in my ideal world. But another thing is, I'm doing a list with a list, yeah, so sometimes do. often do. But another thing is that many are unemployed, underemployed, and struggle with the school system, and just generally don't have the opportunities due to struggling in school, being misunderstood, and things like that. So people not knowing our talents. I know LinkedIn now is doing like dyslexic thinking as a strength, thanks to Made by Dyslexia. And I love for dyslexic organisations to work together, but I think that empowering dyslexics could mean that we would do better as individuals as well. Think about number one as a selfish point of view, and that we could invest in each other and support each other's projects. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, so some of those statistics. So struggling in school, being misunderstood, and therefore not having opportunities. We struggle with unemployment, underemployment. Sometimes ending up going into prison and probably even being homeless, being between jobs, not being able to keep jobs if we can get them in the first place, and things like that, especially in this very competitive world, if we process things more slowly. But moving on to number two, I hope people will learn more about our strengths, our talents and abilities from like Made by Dyslexia, dyslexic thinking and that kind of thing. I know I work on my alliterations a bit too much and I'm a bit too obsessed with alliteration, so I'm thinking of things that begin with T, like talents, and how dyslexic thinking can help, dyslexic thinking and talents and that kind of thing can help. And I think if people learn about our strengths as a talents and thinking styles and that kind of thing, thinking style, what they can hopefully be encouraged to see what we can do. As I say, I'm sure China, India, Africa, and other parts of Asia as well, and Latin America could grow much quicker, or any country could grow much quicker by utilising the strengths of dyslexic thinking. Yeah, moving on to, I think I've covered enough on point number two, but I hope people will find out by those organisations. And I guess they've already kind of shown that we have a lot of strengths, but there's a lot of statistics about us. Probably enough at that point, but there's a lot of statistics about us being good in business, but good in business and other areas, and having many talents. On a serious note, apparently in Britain, 20% of UK millionaires are dyslexic, and in America it's 35%. And I think if you look at countries like India, I wonder what the next Richard Branson, Jamie Oliver, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, Charles Schwab, Craig McCall, or people like that, what if they were in a classroom in India but not given those opportunities, and they were judged too much on their exam results and therefore never got to reach their full potential. I think that's a missed opportunity to say, oh, you're not good at school, but you can do something else. You can run a business, or you can be good in tech, or you can be good in so many different areas. Not all dyslexics will have the same strengths or same weaknesses, but oftentimes we'll have similar strengths or weaknesses in art, business, creativity, or many things like that. And number three, I wouldn't really want to force schools or businesses or anything like that to give us opportunities. I'd love to make our own independent schools. And they'll be funded by, ideally, those who choose to pay for them, whether that's for tax purposes, they could be a tax write-off, hopefully, or they could be because their parents are dyslexics, or they can just be a charitable thing. I think that's the season of Christmas, the season of goodwill, you could say, although people say it's pagan or whatever, goodwill to all and that kind of thing. I'd love to know what you think about Christmas, but that's a side note. But yeah, because I believe in freedom as a libertarian, I wouldn't really want to force anyone to. I wouldn't want to force schools to teach us better. I wouldn't want to force schools to make changes to their curriculum to cater more for us. And I wouldn't want to force employers to give us jobs or anything like that. Or I think it would be better if we didn't have to rely on benefits and we could get out of crime. We could avoid crime, ideally, and that kind of thing. So I think that. We could create our own opportunities, like create our own independent schools, which to me, it would be cool if they were funded by people who choose to do so. Again, whether that's for tax incentives, or whether that's because it makes them feel better, or because they are dyslexic themselves, or have family and or relatives, or whatever, who are dyslexic, or friends, or whatever, or for whatever reason they might want to do so. But I think it should be done through free choices. Although I'd love for us to be free from taxes ourselves, and even break even with the taxpayer or whatever, the taxman. And even be able to monopolise and things like But there are many cases of dyslexic people becoming millionaires or even billionaires. It'd be interesting to find the statistic of how many of us are even billionaires. And I know I talked about the Dyslexic Billionaires Network idea I had recently. I've had it for a while, but I talked about it recently. Again, which I've talked about in the past, and also even I think the Dyslexic Trillionaires Network in the future. But I know I'm mainly thinking about the case for investors to invest in us. I love for many to invest in us, but I don't want to force schools or employers to change or to give us opportunities. I think it should be something they want to do. And I think if we made our independent schools, it would be even better if they taught real things like they really need and use in life, like in business or whatever. How to invest. I'd love for us to invest together and run our own businesses and to be financially free. Like I'd love for Schwab Corp and Virgin Money and possibly others as well, but especially those two founded by Dyslexics to help us to invest together, manage money, maybe learn how to invest, learn how to save, learn how to budget, how to make our money go further, how to make money work for us, and maybe make other people work for us rather than not make them, get other people to work for us in a nice way. Although I can be a bit tight, but so we wouldn't force anyone to help, but I think it should all be free choice. I wish people would be as free as possible. And again, that would cut benefits, cut the need for benefits, cut the need for schools to change or funding or those sorts of things. If they were funded by people who choose to do so, I'd love for the taxpayers to be able to choose where their tax money goes to within reason, so they wouldn't be able to put it back into themselves or to their own personal town or city or area, or to projects that would benefit themselves and their family but not the rest of society or whatever. But within reason, I think people should be able to choose. Like if you're a pacifist / conscientious objector, I think you should be able to refuse to donate your taxes to the military or whatever, give your taxes to the military or whatever. And if you don't support that thing, whether that's abortion for illegal, for religious reasons or whatever it might be. So I'd love for the taxpayers to have a choice, as long as those things that taxes normally go towards, again, not for your own personal business or whatever. But I think I've explained that point in quite a lot of detail. So I'm going to move on to number 4. Personally, I would love for us to have the investment so we could become financially free. So that's point number 3. So I'd love for us to invest to the point where we would be able to choose whether we work or not, or want to work or not. I guess there are probably different incentives for different groups. For ourselves, by investing in each other and supporting each other and having each other's back, it would mean we are financially freer and better off overall as well. For society, it could mean it cuts crime, cuts costs like costs to pay towards that for that crime or whatever, makes it more convenient, and also cuts taxes and things like that. And for certain countries, it could help them to grow more rather than leaving a whole group of people, which are probably about 10 to 20% of the population, leaving us behind instead. It gives us those opportunities. Again, I'd love to work on the work that's already been done and the research that's been done by Dyslexia and others, the Elson Dyslexic Creativity, the Dyslexic Imagination, and others, showing what we can do, how we can be innovative, creative, and things like that. Thinking outside the box, which I hope to come to. Personally, I'd say my personal reasons would be we would be able to invest to the point where we wouldn't have to worry if we have a job or not, or if we're able to get a job, or whether we're able to keep a job, or if we want to quit a job, we'd have what I call potential revenue money I talked about before, where we'd be able to either rage quit or quiet quit, or if our boss treats us well, we'd be able to say, I want to focus on my hobbies or whatever, rather than have this job or whatever. Or if we wanted to keep that job, we'd be able to keep it or whatever. Or if we wouldn't have to worry about losing it though, at the same time, because we'd have that safety net. But it wouldn't come through force or taxpayers being paying for it. I'd love for us to discourage us from joining militaries, gangs, terrorism, anything that's violent and less in self-defense, or anything that's criminal. So I think it'd be quite cool if we went from overrepresentation of crime to underrepresentation. Now this is one I probably shouldn't say if I was wiser, but I don't want to offend anyone, but I do want to be honest, and that is that I see like militarism and like invading other nations, although it's legal. I think internationally it should be illegal. In my opinion, I think it should be illegal by international law and condemned colonialism and that kind of thing. As someone who's against imperialism, colonialism, empire and supremacy, I call ISIS, a bit like ISIS, but I think that we would go from like being against crime, even like invading other people's nations, but that's a controversial one. Should be careful, so I don't want to alienate anyone. But moving on, number 5, as I say, it would help us as individuals and empower us and support us to reach our full potential. And some people might want to do so for charitable reasons. Some governments might see that we can help them with growth and our talents and strengths, like Made by Dyslexic, say, made by the wonderful Kate Griggs and others. And she's done a wonderful job with Made by Dyslexia. Please check them out if you want to be inspired by dyslexia. Same with the L Centre for Dyslexia and Creativity, the Dyslexic Advantage, and the Child Man Institute and Understood, which I mentioned before. And I'm sure there are other organisations as well. But if you Google dyslexic strengths, dyslexic talents, thinking styles, dyslexic thinking, and things like that, famous dyslexics and whatnot, I'm sure you'll see that we have many strengths. Of course, if you're dyslexic yourself or you've got dyslexic children, which is normally genetic, but let's say it could skip a gene sometimes. So someone's grandparents might be dyslexic and they will be, but their parents might not, or whatever. But you might want to see your children do well. So different people might have different incentives as to why they want to invest in dyslexic. I guess people might not want to, but many hopefully will. Number 6, many dyslexics, unlike myself, have a hard-working ethic. And I think it would be great to see them reach their full potential. Many are great in business, again, unlike myself or whatever, but and studies show that. There's many examples, like I think his name's Nick Jones from Soho House. I'll say Richard Branson, many people know about Charles Schwab, John Chambers, Craig McCall, the late Ingvar Kamprad, and many others who are either speculated to be dyslexic or talked about being dyslexic. I know some are speculated to be dyslexic and may not be. People like Larry Ellison, even Bill Gates. I've even once heard Elon Musk is dyslexic. So you can't really, I don't think that's true, but I think you can't always believe what you read or hear online or whatever. Even in books, you probably can't always believe that kind of thing. But some have a hard-working ethic, I guess. I said all that just to make that point. But yeah, no, I don't. But I don't have a hard-working bone in my body, but some do. Number 7, we can also probably work smart as well. And I think there's a number of things I think you can work smart at. That includes, there's a number of ways where I thought of working smart. One is like working together as a team, so you have each other's backs, so you make things a lot easier for each other. Although you don't want to have to carry someone, I guess there is that problem. But I think you'll probably be a lot better normally if you work together as a team, as the Bible says. Apparently, many hands make light work. I'm not that religious, but I'll say that one anyway. As I normally say. The other thing is, like, if we could, that's one thing. Dyslexics can be very inventive, making like robots or things like that, apps, AI and that kind of thing, generally, and that kind of thing. Technology to make things easier, and sometimes dyslexics use technology in many cases to make things easier for ourselves. I'd love to interview my fellow dyslexics and talk about their projects and help them to promote their projects, and I hope to share this video with as many people who are connected to dyslexia as possible. And I hope other people will as well, especially like if someone needs to have an uplift, someone needs to be encouraged with their dyslexia. Yeah, there's another thing, like investing together. I wonder if it could be that easy, like investing, just putting money into something, and it generates more money. And I guess that investment takes risks, but one thing dyslexics can be good at, talking about our talents and strengths, our thinking style, is predicting future market trends, like what people are going to buy. Someone, a dyslexic entrepreneur was saying, with a party supply store on the Dyslexic Advantage, he said that I know when I open a store it's going to make money. I know which ones are going to make more money and roughly how it's going to work, even though like other people struggle with that. I know it's my dyslexia that helps me think that way for whatever reason. So yeah, being able to predict market trends, that's what I'm looking for. I think that would be really good for investing, and you can probably make a lot of money doing that. So yeah, working together, having robots, creating robots, apps, AI, things like that, robotics, AI, that kind of thing. Investing together, perhaps. I'm sure there's another one I was thinking of, because initially I was thinking of 3, I thought of the investing one. That is a bit annoying. I can't really think of. I guess if I can make videos like this and then just make money, it's like put it out to the universe. I don't know if I believe in manifesting, but if I did, I'd probably just say I'd put it out to the universe or whatever. I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I suppose things don't just happen. We have to make them happen, unfortunately. Although it'd probably be boring if it was that easy. But yeah, I guess if life was just challenging enough to make it interesting, I don't know if it would be boring if it was too easy. I wonder if God made my life really easy, and don't push faith or belief onto anyone, but if God made my life really easy, or whatever, or if my life was just really easy, whatever you believe in, a genie or whatever, or nature itself or life itself made my life really easy, would I look and think, oh, I'm really bored? And then let's say God would be able to say, well, I gave you what you wished for, I gave you what you asked for, and now you don't appreciate it. Right. Moving on, number 8, as I say, it'd be good to help others, and we do need help in some ways, but maybe people can buy from dyslexic businesses. Again, I mentioned earlier, I read some of that article, but I didn't read probably all of it because it had probably quite a few details. I'd struggle if I get bogged down in the details or whatever to read things and remember what I read and focus on what I read and that kind of thing. Yeah, we do have many positives, talents, positive thoughts, positive thinking styles. I think we invest in each other. Again, people might have different incentives as to why to help us, and yeah, I think of like something where it says this person loves someone with dyslexia and they make them proud every day, like the t-shirts and things like that. I know there's like a dyslexic font as well and that kind of thing. I'd love for us to have our own creative rooms where we can create things. It'd be amazing to see what we could create, what possibilities are there. I'd also love to support multiculturalism with dyslexia, so people of different religious and ethnic backgrounds, racial, ethnic and religious differences, so diversity amongst dyslexia, and empowering more women with dyslexia, women and girls with dyslexia, that kind of thing perhaps. Number 9, even like in areas like writing, the irony of dyslexic writers, we can still do that, and maybe a lot of dyslexics have good ideas. I know people say ideas are a dime a dozen, it's about taking action that counts, but a lot of dyslexics perhaps need that push and encouragement to be taught how to take ideas and put them into action. And I think we support each other as a community as well. That'd be great. And number 10, supporting young dyslexics. And there's something I was going to say which I forgot, but I'll probably mention that in part 3, I think, because I think if I mention it too often, well, maybe I'll mention it while I remember. I'd love for like Cascade Investments, Berkshire Hathaway, Bridgewater, and many other investors, maybe even the PIF, to invest in us. Maybe Dubai could host events where dyslexics are invited to, and we get to connect with entrepreneurs and that kind of thing, whether they're even non-dyslexic and dyslexic entrepreneurs. But it would give a chance for more dyslexics to be involved in those networks and learn from others, including other dyslexics in some cases. So maybe Dubai could host those events, dyslexia-friendly events, go on alliteration again, but or even like Saudi Arabia, the PIF and whatnot. And if they do well with momentum, other countries might say, oh yeah, we want a bit of that. We'll have a bit of that. So maybe we could have events in Switzerland and other places, but a good chance for us to network and connect with investment bankers, businesses and whatnot, and pick up from them and learn from them and whatnot. And yeah, be in those right circles perhaps. But as ever, I'd love to know what you think. I was wondering if I'm going to be able to think of that many ideas, but I hope, as usual, I'm going to be able to take on that challenge of coming up with 40 different ideas without repeating myself too much. But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, peace and love, and I'm out.